Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to science. All right, today in chapter 14, section 1, we're starting on human chromosomes. If you had to pick an ideal organism for the study of genetics, would you choose one that produces lots of offspring, was easy to grow in a lab, had a short lifespan that would allow you to do several crosses per month? If so, you're probably thinking about a very common study, and that is for things like fruit flies. So you certainly would not choose an organism that would produce fairly slowly, had a long lifespan, and could not be grown in a lab. Yet, when we study human genetics, this is exactly the sort of organism we deal with. So, given all the difficulties, it may seem that you may wonder why we don't do research on humans in genetics, but the reality is we need something that we can get better data with quicker. All right, so let's start by talking about a karyotype. So, what is a karyotype? A karyotype is going to show the complete diploid set of chromosomes grouped together in pairs, arranged in order from decreasing size. You're going to see one in just a minute. Right. So, to find what makes us uniquely human, we have to explore the actually human genome. So, the genome itself is the full set of genetic information that an organism carries in its DNA. The study of the genome starts with chromosomes and bundles of protein found in the nuclei of the eukaryotic cell. To see human chromosomes closely, cell biologists photograph cells in mitosis when the chromosomes are fully condensed and easy to view. Scientists then cut the chromosomes from the photograph and arrange the pictures in something known as a karyotype. So these are pictures of actual chromosomes, those sister chromatids that are together. So it shows the complete diploid set of chromosomes grouped together in pairs, arranged in order of decreasing size. The karyotype from the typical human cell, which contains 46 chromosomes, is arranged in 23 pairs. So 23 pairs represents both the maternal and paternal, the one from the mother and also the one from the father. Two of the chromosomes in the human genome are known as sex chromosomes because they determine an individual's sex. So females have two copies of the X chromosome, giving them an XX, and males have a copy of X and a copy of Y, giving them an XY genotype. So if you're looking at the Punnett square is going to illustrate why males and females are born in a 50-50 ratio. You see that the female is going to give an X or an X, while the male is going to give an X or Y. All human eggs carry at least a single X. However, uh, half of a sperm cell carries an X chromosome, and the other half carries a Y chromosome. To ensure that half of the zygote, the developing baby, will get its chromosomes from mom and father. Now, sex chromosomes, there are more than 1,200 genes that are found on the X chromosome, some of which are shown. You can see the Duchenne muscular dystrophy, inactive X center here, hemophilia A, color blindness. All of these are things that you find on the X chromosome. The human Y chromosome is much smaller than the X chromosome, and it contains only about 140 different genes. Most are associated with the sex determining and sperm development. And so, this sex determining, the testes determining factor, is something that essentially causes the gender identity to be separate from a male and female. So, the transmission of human traits. What patterns of inheritance do human traits follow? So many human traits follow a pattern of simple dominance. The alleles for human genes display codominant inheritance. Because X and Y chromosomes determine the genes located on them, show patterns of inheritance called sex linked. So these traits that you find on the X and Y chromosome, those are called sex linked traits. Now, for dominant and recessive alleles, many human traits follow the simple pattern of dominance. For example, a gene known as MC1R helps determine skin and hair color. Some of the M1CR's recessive alleles produce red hair. An individual with red hair usually has two sets of these recessive alleles, inheriting a copy from each parent. Dominant alleles for the M1CR gene help produce darker hair colors. The genes located on the X and Y chromosome show a pattern of inheritance called sex linked. A sex linked gene is a gene located on a sex chromosome. Genes on the Y chromosome are found only in males and are passed directly onto their sons. Genes located on the X chromosome are found in both sexes, but the fact that men have just one X chromosome leads to some interesting sequences. So we're going to look further into sex-linked traits. So, sex-linked inheritance. For example, humans have three genes responsible for color vision, all located on the X chromosome. In males, a defective allele for any of these genes results in color blindness, an inability to distinguish certain colors. The most common form, red-green color blindness, occurs in about 1 in 12 males. Among females, however, color blindness is affecting only about 1 in 200 females. So it's pretty rare in females, but in males, it's going to show up much more frequently. In order for a recessive allele, like color blindness, to be expressed in females, it must be presented in two copies, one from um, one on each of those X chromosomes. So the recessive phenotype of a sex-linked genetic disorder tends to be much more common among males than it is among females. So X chromosome inactivation. And just one X chromosome is enough for cells in males. How does the cell adjust to an extra X chromosome in females? In female cells, most of the genes in one of the X chromosomes are randomly switched off, forming a dense region in the nucleus known as the Barr body. Barr bodies are generally not found in males because their single X chromosome is still active. With human pedigrees, um, how can pedigrees be used to analyze human inheritance? The information gained from pedigree analysis makes it possible to determine the nature of genes and allow alleles associated with inherited human traits. To analyze the pattern of inheritance, followed by a particular trait, you can use a chart called a pedigree, which shows the relationship within a family. A pedigree shows the presence or absence of a trait according to the relationship between parents, siblings, and offspring. So the diagram shows what symbols in the pedigree represent. Notice that we have this shaded blue is a circle shaded square. This is the presence of a white forelock trait. Whenever it is not shaded, no white forelock trait is shown. So this circle means it's a woman. The square means it's a man. This a line between shows that they are married and they have three branches coming off. This is showing that they have three children. So the three children, this one has white forelock, this one has white forelock, but this daughter doesn't. You can see the offspring and that inheritance pattern. So the pedigree shows how one human trait, a white forelock or hair just above the forehead, passes through three generations of a family. The allele for the white forelock trait is dominant. At the top chart, you see the grandfather that had the white forelock trait and his three children, two that had the white forelock trait and one that didn't. And three grandchildren have the trait, this female, this male, and this female. Because the white forelock trait is dominant, all of the family members in the pedigree lack this trait, must be homozygous recessive. So this female, this mother, the grandmother, has homozygous recessive for the trait, and he is heterozygous because he has a recessive trait given to this daughter, and he is also giving a recessive trait, giving this an individual homozygous recessive. So one of the grandfather's children lacks the white forelock trait, so the grandfather must be heterozygous. The information gained from this pedigree analysis makes it possible to determine the nature of genes and alleles associated with human inherited traits. Based on the pedigree, you can often determine if an allele for a trait is dominant or recessive, autosomal, or sex linked. All right, guys, this is going to cover for today. Look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.